So we're talking about Gene Key 60 today, which has the shadow of limitation, the gift of realism, and the city of justice. On the path to this gift of realism, we are going to encounter limitation because the human experience is just inherently limited, and our attitude about that is what we have to balance out. Believe it or not, a lot of us souls are pretty bent about being human, all right? Even though we wanted to come here and experience this game of duality and living in like a limited flesh suit, we're actually bummed about it because our souls are not used to being in this kind of limited realm. And so we have to cross the threshold of limitation in order to get onto the on-ramp of what's realistic, right? Realism. Limits are not necessarily a bad thing. Limits provide structure, all right? So we just entered 2026. On February 17th, we're gonna enter the Chinese New Year of the fire horse, all right? If you let a horse run wild, you're not gonna be able to harness its power. It needs the limits of the training and the bridle and like the whole thing. Otherwise, we can't work together with the horse and all of its power is lost. That is seeing limits as a good thing, all right? Limits that ultimately lead us to more freedom, more power, more creative capacity. So the dilemma of this shadow is balance. Our attitude about limitations has to be balanced in order for us to access the gift frequency of the 60th gene key. So if we see the limitations of being in a body or being in a society or whatever it is, if we like have a shitty attitude about it and we see those as being stifling instead of as just like a variable to be worked through, we're never going to be able to transcend those limitations. And every limit is meant to be transcended. First, it holds up the structure, okay? First, it trains the horse so we can harness its power, but then we're meant to transcend those limitations and just let the horse run free. Hopefully you're down with this horse metaphor because it's just what we're working with right now. But I want to read you a quote from Richard Rudd here. The gene keys provide a structure through your hologenetic profile and the keys themselves. But if you get caught in that structure, worrying about what it all means, you get stuck. By the way, that's what I made this channel for, okay? I want to know what it all means. And I know we can't know it all. All right? And I try not to get stuck there, but for real, it's a lot of information. It's very useful. And without getting stuck in the confines of my profile, like, of course, I want to know what it means and I wanted to make a channel about it. However, you can see how if we get stuck worrying about limitation, we can't expand beyond it. So like language, the English language, I think is the ultimate like example of this. English was created as a commerce language. Other languages have so many different words for love and different emotions. We are incredibly limited in how we can express ourselves in the English language. And I think about that a lot when it comes to the gene keys, because to create this system and have English be the primary language it's expressed through is actually completely wild. Like, no wonder you need one book this big just to start studying it. But you know what? The English language, that's the only language I speak fluently. It's what we have. And that limitation, all right, creates the necessary structure to communicate this system. So I want to check on how this shadow expresses when it's repressed versus reactive. All right, give me 1 second. Okay, so limitation, when repressed, expresses as being unstructured. There's a deep lack of structure in one's personal life when we feel like the victim of limitation, all right? And in a reactive state, the 60th shadow will make us rigid and angry and controlling because we're pissed off about the limits. The limits are inherent. We can't do anything about them. And until we embrace them and start working within them, we can't transcend them. But then the gift of realism begins to come online as we accept these limitations and start to cultivate a positive attitude about them. Start to remind ourselves that our soul wanted to be here in this limited reality so that we could transcend it. Then we're already on our way to the gift of realism. We can operate within limitation and we can also transcend it. At a certain point on the spiritual journey, we start to realize that it is not realistic for us to believe that we are limited by the nature of the realm that we find ourselves in. The whole ish of the game has to be to transcend these limitations, right? And connect with higher consciousness. That becomes a more realistic worldview than this idea that this is all there is and I got one lifetime and there's nothing else going on here in this universe. That ain't it. The gift of realism is about being able to take advantage of what was once perceived as a limiting structure. It's about being able to make the most of what we have, knowing that with enough spiritual work, we can transcend the nature of these limitations. So I want to read you directly from my notes here because they're so good. All right. Realism is a paradox, and the ability to be with that paradox is essential for stabilizing this gift, and it comes from beyond the rational mind. Ooh, so much paradox in the gene keys, but honestly, I don't believe that we're anywhere near the truth of the human experience until we get to paradox, because that means we're transcending duality. That means we're moving beyond the limitations of this realm. When we experience a big loss in life and our structures crumble, we are forced to go beyond our thinking and into the heart. That's what gives us the ability to adapt to change and even take advantage of it. The ability us humans have to write our own story and to update that narrative as needed, to put a spin on whatever it is that's happening to us, to help us cultivate a positive attitude, makes us unique as a species. All right? What spin are you putting on perceived limitations in your life so that you can perceive a reality where life is working for us, not against us? That's the kind of trust that the gene keys is calling us home to. When we trust life, we can dance with it, all right? We're not fighting against it. And it goes deeper. Once we transcend these limitations and start achieving some success in our spiritual or magical or personal or professional work, however it is that you're transcending limitations, you can't let success throw you off. I know you've experienced it living in this 3D world. A lot of times when we get successful, we totally lose sight of ourselves and the goal. So then a new set of limitations comes in after we've already thrown the old ones off and had some success at it. So staying humble, being able to witness ourselves, okay? That's how we stay stable in this 60th gift. And it can be very challenging if we have a lot of success because our egos go wild. Realism knows when to step back and let go. Realism knows when to push and when to back off. All right. And as we stabilize this 60th gift, we are in the process of embodying the 60th Siddhi. And this Siddhi of justice, there's a line I love from a school that I'm in called Builders of the Atom. And the line is, I recognize the manifestation of the undeviating justice in all the circumstances of my life. Holy cow. That is so much to take responsibility for. But at a certain point on the spiritual journey, we start to realize that reality is a mirror. And if we don't like what we're seeing, we have to change what we're doing so that we get a different reflection. And that's what this Siddhi of justice is all about. Justice exists in realms beyond duality because we're operating at this meta layer beyond the third dimension, beyond good and bad. So we can find justice in the expression of life once we drop this idea of duality altogether. We only know justice. Our concept of it in our, human experience is rooted in the limitation of duality. Justice is given as grace and freedom flows from it. We can give this gene keys enlightenment level of justice to ourselves and to others when we open our hearts to the idea that everyone is just doing their best. Even if someone is loving you badly and causing harm, they're probably loving to the best of their ability. Everyone is just doing things the way that they were taught, the way that they were programmed. And a lot of times, even someone's like what we perceive as being their worst is actually their best. And then we can love them from a place of justice because we don't need their behavior to be justified in a 3D way in order to be present and be loving. And this extends not only to other people, but of course, to ourselves. To be forgiven by someone we've wronged is the ultimate expression of this level of enlightened justice. I want to read you one more time from my notes here. Justice is not a limitation. And when we forgive or are forgiven, we are at the dawn of the frequency of enlightenment. Let's go. I've been saying it the whole time. Forgiveness is the key to eternal happiness. I digress. It's not up to us to punish. Life and the wheel of karma will take care of that. Our invitation is to keep creating and letting go and to live in that paradox until death, which is the great equalizer for all life. When a human being fully self-actualizes and our hearts open to our true innocence, justice emerges as a new baseline, knowing what to preserve and what to release. That divine discernment of what to go for and what to let go of, whew, think about our capacity to experience that beyond the realm of duality, beyond judgment, without having any type of feelings or nervous system hijack around what's worth preserving and releasing. We're able to just divinely know that and act on it in a disinterested way. No agenda, just innate knowing and doing. That's what this 60th Siddhi is all about. I'm Molly. Thank you so much for visiting my channel. And if you'd like to get a Gene Keys reading from me, please visit my website, mirrorreadings.com, and subscribe to this channel to save 15% on all my offerings. Seriously, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, have a great year.